It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I'm Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host, Smitty. Go follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412. Also, go check us out on YouTube. Go subscribe to us there. Hit the like. Leave a comment on some of the videos. Let us know what you think. We're trying to grow that thing up as much as we can. So go subscribe to us over there if you're not watching already. Also, go follow us on the listening platforms, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you do find us. We want to try to grow those as well. So just go follow us everywhere is what we're really getting at. This is the Pirates episode, and the Pirates had a relatively good week, relatively good two series. When you look at just like the overall standings of things, they did win both series they had against the Colorado Rockies and the Cincinnati Reds, going 2-1 in both of those series. There could have been potential for a sweep against the Reds, in my opinion, but, you know, neither here nor there. But I feel like we have a better tone to talk about with the Pirates as far as just like the results of the games go this week than we did a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that Red series was probably going to look pretty close to the way that it did because of the pitching matchups. You know, the Reds are probably feeling like they should have won at least two of those games too. If like that series could have easily gone the other direction when they got Hunter Green going against Mitch Keller, which if you are more into the pitching side of things than the offensive side of things, that was the game for you right there. Nick Lodolo is awesome too, who pitched for the Reds, really good lefty in that series. So, you know, you kind of had everything that you wanted there with the Rays coming this upcoming weekend. You got Jared Jones and Skenes Saturday and Sunday, so going to be another interesting weekend in the Berg to be excited about. But we're not going to talk about the future yet. We're going to talk about what happened over the last week or so. And man, Bryan Reynolds in June. Is there a better baseball player than Bryan Reynolds specifically in June? If there is, it might be his teammate Rowdy Tellez in June, because those two and Andrew McCutchen, I'll throw him in that group as well, are kind of carrying the offense
too.
Yeah, I was talking about Bryan's career there, but then as I was saying it to myself and kind of looking at the stats of the last week, really Rowdy's the only one that's like numbers are there with him in line over the last 7 days. And again, McCutchen to 304, 360 on base, 652 slug, OPS over 1,000, but like Rowdy Tellez 438, matching on base percentage also at 438, 625 slugging, 1,063 OPS. And then Reynolds 375, 423 on base, 750 slugging, 1,173 OPS, and he's done that in 24 at bats as opposed to Rowdy Tellez 16. 2 home runs over the last week, 4 RBIs, just 1 walk over the last week, 9 hits, scored 5 runs, 3 doubles. So, you know, the 5 extra base hits in 6 games over the last week for Bryan Reynolds. But like you said, we're not just talking about like this year in June. Historically, June, this guy just really heats up. This is his month. And the Pirates certainly need it because, again, beyond him, you're not getting a ton of offensive production up and down the lineup. You know, guys, Nick Gonzales has kind of hit that a little bit of a wall. I'm not worried about him getting out of it because, like, it's not like that necessarily a mechanical thing breaking down. Gary Morgan, we mention him all the time on here. You know, they do really good work, him and Jim Stan over at Pirates Fan Forum. But wanted to give him a shout out because, you know, he was kind of putting people's minds to ease on this. Like, you're going to have ups and downs over the course of a baseball season. It's not a situation like Jack Suwinski or Henry Davis where you're seeing things just totally break down for them. So still encouraged by what we've seen there. But yeah, basically the point of, we always have like one specific thing, like the thumbnail, the title that we're really targeting on. Spoiler alert, everybody, it's going to be about Bryan Reynolds for this episode because Bryan Reynolds in June, best player in baseball.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. He's been carrying this offense. I mean, not necessarily just by himself. Like you mentioned, there's a few other guys that have been doing well in this offense in the past week or so. Like you mentioned, Rowdy Tellez, which Rowdy Tellez, got to give credit where credit's due. We were harping on him a lot, and over the past really like 3 weeks, better part of a month, we're talking about a player that has contributed a lot to the success of the team, especially offensively, over the last like 3 weeks. So I got to give
credit. It kind of happened in that Blue
Jays
series, which is, you know, one of the places where he played. You almost wonder, they put up a really cool story about that kid that's like the biggest Rowdy Tellez fan because of things that he always does for his family. Like bringing them into town and stuff. And basically ever since that he linked back up with his kid, Rowdy's been the best or second best hitter on the team. So can we just get this kid around the Pirates at all times? I think that we might have found a solution.
Yeah, no, he's been really good. He's been really good, and like I said, you got to give credit where it's due. And I won't give an apology for things I've said in the past, but I appreciate that.
That's another thing about this conversation. It's like people try to make it seem like, oh, where are all the Rowdy Tellez haters and that, like making it seem like that stuff didn't happen. No, he was awful. And there was definitely a point where we probably shouldn't even have gotten to the point where Rowdy could have redeemed himself, because they probably should have moved on. But I will say, to give them maybe a little bit of credit here, they've at least allowed him the opportunity to rebound. And whether that means, I would like to think that means continuing on with the team as opposed to trading him at the deadline as an asset to get something back, a la Carlos Santana situation or something like that.
Yeah.
Because this team should be buying. We talked about it a ton last week, probably talk about it again today because we got some questions regarding that. But yeah, they've given him a chance to stabilize. Obviously, we knew, you and I sitting here knew that he wasn't that bad of a player that he was playing like, but we also wondered what is the best that he can get back to, because he was injured. Like, we're talking about 2 seasons removed from what he did in Milwaukee. That is the reason that, we were somewhat attracted to the power bat that he could provide for this team. And I'll say, it's not like he's hitting the ball out of the yard, and that's where the production's coming from. He's just gap to gap power right now. He's getting extra base hits, but he's not hitting the ball over the fence. He's just consistently having good at bats, working full counts, drawing some walks. Like, it's just crazy because everything about his approach has seemingly changed, not just his swing. He just seems more dialed in at the plate overall.
Yeah, no, I think that, given time, players can work out of things. And as far and as bad as Rowdy Tellez was, he was given the time for better or for worse. And it looks like it was for the better. And he was able to work out of things. So obviously a month ago, was I calling for him to be DFA'd? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that he can't turn things around and be a productive player. But yeah, along with productive players, you mentioned Andrew McCutchen. He's another one that I think that over his career, June and just summertime in general brings the best out of Kutch. And we've been seeing that.
That's the funny thing. Normally it's July. So imagine if he's going to do what he normally does in July.
Still. Yeah, that's true. I mean, he's at, over the last week, a 1.012 OPS, couple homers in there to go along with Reynolds homers. I mean, he's been really good and really consistent as well. Andrew McCutchen, even at 36 years old, is still one of the more consistent players this team has. And I don't know if that's sad or if that is something I'm happy about, because you would think that guys like Oneil Cruz, Bryan Reynolds, I mean, heck, even Jack Suwinski could provide more than what they have been so far this season at a more consistent rate, but they're not able to do that. And I think that's a big problem that the team has been running into. I mean, just over this last week, Oneil Cruz is batting .214. His on base is the same, slugging .286 from a guy that I said preseason could potentially be the first Pirate to hit 40 home runs since Willie Stargell, and this guy's slugging .286. Like, what are we doing? I mean, at some point, Oneil Cruz has to figure it out. And I feel like we have the same conversation, too, about Bryan Hayes. And the difference between Oneil Cruz and Bryan Hayes, and I'm not going to try to slight Oneil Cruz's defense at all by saying this, but Bryan Hayes is a Gold Glove at third base. He at least has that going for him on a day-to-day basis. But at the same time, and in the same breath, he needs to get more consistent and better or behind the plate or next to the plate, because you have to earn the contract that you gave him, not just with your defense, but we need you to be more consistent. If this team wants to get where they want to be, they can't just rely on 1 or 2 hitters to do that. They can't rely on just the top 3 guys to be able to bring them into the postseason. They have to be able to have that throughout their entire lineup. And I'm not saying you have to have a bunch of Bryan Reynolds and Andrew McCutchens throughout your lineup, but you should at least be hitting at a more consistent level week to week. These guys have just been so inconsistent. It's surprising to me, honestly, looking at some of the inconsistencies that the team has had. And it's probably a credit to the starting pitching still, and that's been the credit to this season as a whole, that they were able to win 4 out of 6 games this past week, is that The offense, the starting pitching is being able to carry them. The offense is not being able to help out that much at all. I mean, I look at these Reds games. The Pirates won 4-1, and lost 2-1, won 1-0. I mean, you scored 6 runs in 3 games. I don't really think that should be something the offense would be very proud of.
They gave up more than 2 runs once over the last week, or since we last talked, and it was 16.
Yeah, that game was wild.
Which I was going to say too, that was a game started by Jared Jones. Like, who would have thought the one game in this stretch that we would be talking about would be started by Jared Jones? But I cut you off. You were saying something else there.
No, you're fine. But I'm just saying, like, you look at the results that the Pirates are getting. They're winning because of their starting pitching and in spite of the offense that they've been getting. Now, we've had a few good players, and Bryan Reynolds is the key part of that over this past week and in the continuous weeks before that. But the starting pitching is the real story here. The starting pitching is the reason that they're still winning the games. If you go into every single game hoping that you can score a couple runs, that's a problem. And I feel like as we get later into the season, you're not going to be able to rely on your starting pitching. Not that you can't rely on them, but they shouldn't have to shoulder all of the load in terms of like winning these games. You're going to have to be able to go into some of these games knowing that you're going to get the starting pitching, but also we need to score some runs behind it. You can't rely on your starting pitching to just give up 1 to 2 runs a game and call it a day offensively, because you can't expect that, especially if you want to get into the postseason, especially if you're in the postseason. You're playing against teams that have great offenses, more consistent offenses than the one you have. Like we're saying, you don't have to be like one of the best offenses in the league. You just have to be league average. And right now, they have a few guys that are probably bringing them up from the bottom of the offensive averages. But overall, you've got a bunch of below league average hitters in your lineup right now.
And that's why, I mean, going back to last week, we talked about, guys that we felt like they could acquire were realistic options. We got a question or two that we're going to get to about that. Because again, if you add a bat or 2 to this lineup, we know how much of a game changer that could be. What's going on, everybody? Smitty from Around the 412, and I just want to take a quick second to give a shout out to our folks at Game Changers. Their logo on the screen right now, right above my microphone. Over 2,000 different designs in their catalog. Luxury heavyweight material. I am wearing one of their shirts right now. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Head over to gamechanger.la or pick6.la to pick up some shirts. And guess what? Use code AT412. Save yourself $10 on your order every single time. Again, gamechanger.la or pick6.la. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Check them out. Also, starting to build a decent Pirates catalog over there. They got Clemente, Kutch, Oneil Cruz, Paul Skenes, and Jared Jones options on their t-shirts.
And Barry Bonds.
So, the Bonds is a different style because it's like the draft rookie card, like double-sided one. But you're right. Yeah, Barry Bonds as well. I have 4 of the 6 that they have for Pirates options. So go check them out. Gamechanger.la or pick6.la. Code AT412. Save yourself $10 on your order. So we're about to test something right now. And this is a good thing to test on the Pirates show, not the Steelers show, because not sure if we're going to be able to monetize based off a video that I'm going to play here in a second. And based off how our Pirates show does in numbers compared to our Steelers, which, by the way, can we get some of that Steelers traffic over to the Pirates show? I don't really care about, because it would probably make about 6 cents on this video. So one of the questions that we got from Chris Coburn: do you believe in Bucco's playoff chances like you believe in Joe Hendry?
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. Cause they love him in London and Paris and Tokyo, America, Scotland and Canada and Mexico. They say, I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry.
There's going to be a lot of people that do not understand.
I don't understand it. I'm the one watching. It's on my show, and I don't know what it is. The guy's in front of a green screen. I don't even see him in ring. Who is this guy?
No, he's not. He's not. He's I'll say an indie wrestling darling. Currently signed to TNA Impact, but WWE and TNA have had a partnership come together recently. So Joe Hendry recently appeared in NXT, WWE's third brand, like really developmental, I guess, but
Yeah.
going through the black and gold phase now at NXT 2.0. It's still kind of a developmental thing before you get to the main roster, but they do really cool stuff down there. A lot of great workers down there. Joe Hendry just made an appearance down there. Again, very popular right now. It's their number one most viewed clip since WrestleMania is Joe Hendry's appearance in NXT. So I love any time that wrestling crosses over into this show. It's a big part of my life. I'm still a huge wrestling guy. So I love that Chris Coburn has allowed me to do that on this show. As far as Bucco's playoff chances, we're having that conversation right now and seemingly every week. It's fun to already be looking like scoreboard watching, waking up every day, seeing where they're at in the wild card race, even though they're under 500, still right there. And again, just kind of that should be putting pressure on this front office, on this regime, saying like, okay, I mentioned this last week, but I'll reiterate it. You got Skenes, Keller, and Jones right now. You'd like to think you're going to have them for years and years and years. Realistically, we don't know if that's going to be the case. You know, you got them right now. You know where the void is on this team. Clearly, we're seeing it game in and game out. It's a race to 3, seemingly every single Pirates game. What team's going to get to 3 first? That team's going to win the ball game. This team needs bats, plural, in my opinion, to be able to compete. Now, in the NL Central, like the division to me is still up for grabs, but certainly a wild card. And, you know, there's so many guys that I look around the league that are seemingly available. People are talking, not all these guys are going to be traded, but names that have been thrown out there that I'm like, yes, that's an upgrade. Yes, that's an upgrade. When you look at what the Pirates are getting production-wise from their lineup, anybody really is going to be an upgrade as long as they have a pulse and can swing a bat. So let's get to the other question here, because I'll bring it into the conversation. Jeff says, realistic trade option for the Pirates. Robert, JJ Bleday, is it too much to ask for help offensively? Apparently, it might be. We don't know if this front office is going to put their money where their mouths are. This is the time for them to buy. Like, with the starting pitching that they're getting, with the back end of the bullpen they have, Colin Holderman has been awesome. I think he should be an all-star this year. Sub-1 ERA, only 2 earned runs on the year, 8 consecutive scoreless appearances. He has been shut down. And Bednar has stabilized basically since the calendar flipped. So I think on the back end of the bullpen, you're good. Starting pitching, you're good. Middle relief, Luis Ortiz, we probably should be talking a lot more than we have about. Really impressive last week for him with what he had to do when they go to these bullpen games and then hand the ball to him from the opener. He's been awesome in the role that they've had him in this year. But yeah, JJ Bleday is a great shout there from the Oakland A's, who are obviously going to be selling this year. 10 homers this year, 267 batting average. Obviously provides a little bit more pop. What would that be, like second on the team in homers right now? Maybe tied for first? I don't even know.
How many homers does he have? 10?
10.
He would be tied for first with McCutchen Reynolds.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, with what he can bring, can play a couple different spots defensively as well. He, to me, would certainly be an option. The other name, I mean, Robert Jr. is swinging for the fences, and I'm all for it. I think the one question that I would have is that's probably going to be a bigger trade package going Chicago's way, which I'm fine with. Again, I'm not going to hug these prospects in a time when you're buying and you got this rotation that you have. But I think the one concern that I would have is health. He's spent a lot of time on IL the last few seasons. And if that continues, are you buying damaged goods from the White Sox? Is he ever going to get back to the player that we think he can be? Obviously, the potential is there for him to be so. The potential is there for him to be the best hitter on the Pirates. But is health going to block him from doing that? I think either one of those names, and to me, drastically different in terms of the return going the other way. I really like the JJ Bleday option. First off, that name is just fun to say because his last name rhymes with, J. So have a lot of fun just saying JJ Bleday. But I think that's probably the safer of the two. And I think you could also probably continue to buy elsewhere if that is the bat that you go and get. You can still go get like a middle relief arm, maybe another bat. I think they need multiple. Whether or not they do that, I'm not sure. But I really like that shout. I think it makes a ton of sense. And it's one of the few teams, which, by the way, we probably haven't talked about. How many teams do we even think are going to be selling because of how many teams are realistically in the NL wildcard race? Like, I know that we still have another month, right? But, like, okay, in the AL, probably from the Angels down. But, like, so that's 3 teams maybe from the AL because the Rangers won the World Series last year. It's certainly not a talent thing with them, and they have every reason to believe they can turn it around in the second half. In the NL, there's only 2 teams that aren't 1.5 games or fewer back in the wild card.
Yeah, the
So
NL has
5
9 teams in 2 games of each other.
Yeah, how many teams are going to be selling at the that's going to change, you would think, within a month. But right now, it's just hard to look at the picture and say, "Oh, this team's going to be selling. This team's going to be selling." Like right now, you're thinking A's, Marlins, Rockies, in White Sox.
Yeah, I think you're not going to be trading with anybody in the NL. I don't think, unless you really get a someone you like on the Rockies or Marlins. Those are the really two realistic options. I mean, the team that we just played a series against, the Cincinnati Reds, are the farthest away out of that nine team group, and they're a game and a half back from the wild card. This is the tightest playoff race I remember in like the National League for a while. With like, especially with this many teams, like you might get like 4 or 5 teams competing for wild card spots, maybe even 6, but 9. And we're in June. We're halfway through June. That is an outrageous amount of numbers. And then I don't know if that speaks to the talent of the teams or the mediocrity of the teams. I feel like it's probably more of the latter. I feel like all these teams in this 9-team group are probably more mediocre than they are actually talented. But that keeps them together, and that keeps them beating each other. And so the Pirates, and I'm going to echo everything you said last week too, the Pirates have every opportunity to just go out there and take it when it comes to the postseason. They have every single opportunity to be one of the best teams in this group. They have the starting pitching to do it. They have some of the bats to do it. They need to add people to this team. And every single day, Ben Cherington sits on his hands and does nothing. It should be a crime because there is no way he can look at the situation they're in and say, I don't know if it's good if we add to this team. I think that's a ridiculous statement. I think it's a terrible idea, and that should be a fireable offense if he stands by this entire summer and does absolutely nothing to improve this team and just kind of stands pat with what we're doing right now. It is absolutely ridiculous that we're even having this conversation in June, but we are. And I don't know what to expect with the coming months. I don't know what to expect over the next month and a half, whether I think they will actually do something. I want to believe they will, but knowing Ben Cherington and how the Pirates have operated, this is foreign territory to him. Ever since he's taken over as GM, the Pirates have not been in this situation, so we haven't seen him in a buying situation before. We don't know if he's actually going to pull the trigger to do it. And so I'm reluctant to say that he will, but then again, he's never been in this situation before. I think both of those guys were really good shouts. And then another one that I brought up last week that is also an Oakland Athletic is Brent Rooker. I like him a lot as well to bring in. I think that he could be good as a DH for this team as well. And you look at what he's doing this season. He's averaging 260, on base percentage is 341. If you just look at his batting average among everybody over the season, he would be second on the team with like qualified players who have enough starts. He'd be second on the Pirates right now, just behind Bryan Reynolds. And when it comes to his on base percentage on the season, he would actually be leading the team.
Okay. I'm curious about the Astros situation. There's been a lot of talk about them being sellers. Alex Bregman is a free agent after the season. I mean, I'm not considering that for the Pirates necessarily because I mean, you could DH him or Hayes, I guess, but that'd be kind of weird. Yeah, it's just kind of hard to find like a ton of fits. I mentioned Josh Bell last week, a reunion there potentially. But where does he fit? Because then you're going to play Kutch in the outfield, like with the way that I'm not saying that Rowdy's going to continue to hit like this, but like assuming he does. And Josh has always been better from the left side anyway, so it's not like you would platoon him and have him face lefties and hit from the right side. I don't know. So it's just kind of hard to find a ton of fits. I think the A's probably do make the most sense as a trade partner If you're asking me one team to find for the Pirates to make a deal with, I would say the Oakland A's.
Get on the phone with Billy. Is he still a president of baseball operations?
Man, he might be.
Billy Bean.
Jeez.
Let's look this up. Billy Bean. He is currently senior
advisor
to owner John Fisher.
And minority
owner.
So who's running the show over there?
I don't know. Probably someone better than we have. We'd probably get
David
Fleet.
Forrest.
David Forrest. Sounds like a winner already.
In November of 2022, Bean transitioned into a new role and he became the new head of baseball ops. So, I don't know.
Get him on the phone.
I'm down for it. I think that's all I got on that front, at least in terms of the.
We'll give him
Rincon deadline targets. There we go. Yeah, we were going to cut him anyway. Smitty from around the 412 here, and while I may not have much hair, the hair that I do have will not be cut by anybody besides Keek at Keek's Barbershop. My friend Christian Circle, been with us since day one. Keek's Barbershop, located 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Download the app The Cut, book an appointment with Christian today, or you can do walk-in with Tony or Ashley. But again, Keek's Barbershop, 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Go check them out. Old school vibe in there. Absolutely love it. Cannot recommend them enough. Wouldn't go anywhere else. Maybe I'll see you there. So looking at the road ahead for the Pirates, they got Tampa Bay coming here this weekend. Not your typical Tampa Bay Rays right now, 36 and 39, fourth place in the AL East. Not that that's very different from the 36 and 38 Pirates, but like the Rays are typically, at the top of that division, maybe second place, despite the fact that their payroll is never very high comparatively. So I'm excited to see how this series goes. They also typically, the Rays for their pitching this year, they are 26th in runs allowed, 27th in hits allowed, 23rd in batting average allowed, 25th in earned runs allowed, 19th in whip, 11th in strikeouts, 30th in home runs allowed, 102 home runs already they've allowed this year. And they play pretty mediocre defense, the middle of the pack there. So they're not very good at anything besides stealing bases. They've got 71 stolen bases this year, good for 6th in the majors. So we're going to have to watch their run game, which we just faced the Reds, and they run more than anybody else. So, and then we face the Reds again following this series with the Rays. So that's kind of an inverse too, because they can match up with the Pirates pitching wise for the most part, especially at the front of their rotation. So that'll be interesting. So if you disliked what you saw in that Red series, you're not going to like what we did again. Although maybe it will be a bit different at Great American Small Park compared to PNC Park. But I would say overall, I would expect similar results.
I would too. And that's an important series to have. I mean, this is one of the 9 teams that you're
if they
in
go
that
4-2 over the next 6, they're back to 500, right? If that happens, because they're 2 games under right now. So they'd be back to 500 if they can go 4-2.
Yeah, and I would take a 1-2 loss of a series to the Tampa Bay Rays if it meant we could go 3-0 against the Reds. Like every single game against.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Every single game against not just like the divisional opponents, but the actual league opponents, the National League opponents. At this point is so much more important. Every game's important, but like you're taking away games from them. So you need to win those games more.
Like I said, we will get Jones and Skenes this weekend for the Rays, meaning that we won't get them for that series against the Reds.
Sorry, bullpen. We're going to have several bullpen games just so we can line it up.
I'm curious to see if Martin Perez is back for that Red series. It seems like they said he's not going to have to make a rehab start. Like whenever he's going to be good to go, he'll be good to go. So we'll see. He threw a sim game the other day. So we'll see. I'm kind of worried about how his stuff's going to play in that ballpark, though.
It's going to play into the seats, probably. That's probably what they'll be playing.
Yeah, I don't think it's a great matchup for him. Watch him go throw like a 2-hitter now because I said that. But I think that's That's a matchup that I don't love. But if you should have Keller then in that series. Yeah. And then bullpen game. So I don't know.
So we're looking at Keller, potentially Perez in a bullpen
Mm-hmm.
game. Well, hopefully he throws a 2-hitter. It's
gonna be a bullpen game. Jones, Skenes for the Rays.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe the offense will actually help out.
I feel good. I mean, you should feel good about being able to take 2 from the Rays.
Yeah.
With that, the Reds one. I mean, anything can happen. It's baseball, 162 game season. It's kind of hard to look at that and say, but I on paper like that series versus the Rays. I'm a little bit more unsure, specifically because of how they're going to match up in that ballpark.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, anything else Pirates related?
No, not really. I'm very curious about who that wrestler is. That's really what the moral of this episode was. Joe, what's his name? Joe?
Joe Hendry. Like Henry, but it has a D as well.
Yeah. I'm more concerned about that than the Pirates right now.
I'm more concerned about, are the people going to grab themselves some Around the 412 merch from Everything Custom Designs? This last weekend, the new merch went live. Thrilled with the way that the logos came out. So big shout out to Haley. You can get them in t-shirts, long sleeves, hoodies on her Etsy page, which will be in the description. But I'll let myself from the past tell you more about it. Need a custom t-shirt, hoodie, tumbler? Stop what you're doing. Don't go anywhere else. Check out the link in the description. Everything Custom Designs. Our friend Haley Wagner, small business. She can do all that for you. She even does Around the 412 merch, t-shirts, hoodies, long sleeve tees, bunch of different stuff. I even got a tumbler from her as well. So go check out the link in the description. Goes directly to her Facebook page. All of her stuff can be found there. Again, Everything Custom Designs. Haley Wagner. She does great work. Can't recommend her enough. Go check it out. I realized I'm also doing. Yeah, I have to update those like before next week because her Etsy.
I mean, you have a beard
also.
now.
Yeah, her Etsy wasn't working though. Like it was just Facebook that she was operating through.
Yeah,
it's Etsy that we're telling people to go to buy the merch.
Etsy is the direct link for our Around the 412 merch.
Yeah, so we got our OG logo, which is like our AV on Twitter and stuff, and you see that picture a lot. The top and bottom text around the 412, round the 412. With the 3 rivers connecting the logo thing in the middle. And then we have the circular logo, which is probably my favorite revamped version of that over there too. So go check them out. Black, gray, white, hoodie, t-shirt, long sleeve, whatever you want. It kind of feels stupid to be promoting the hoodie and long sleeve right now, like 100 degrees in PA, but either way, at some point it will be useful. So just keep it in your back pocket. Even if you're not going to buy it right now, maybe bookmark the page or something. Keep it in mind to go grab yourself some Around the 412 merch. Other than that, we're going to get out of here. For Smitty, for Tyler, this has been the Around the 412 Pirates Show. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Follow us everywhere. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it at this point. Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Be sure to go over there as well. Leave us a 5-star review and subscribe if you were listening somewhere else and not on YouTube. But either way, till next time, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.